people thought I had money figured out, but I knew I was broke. In 2018, I got fired from a hospital. I felt like I was selling my soul. Secretly, I wanted to go into nursing because I wanted to be a travel nurse internationally, move to Dubai, and maybe be a prince's third wife. Went from like not knowing how to invest at 36 to now just in my investments for myself and my kids have over $750,000 in those accounts.
Welcome to the Investing RN podcast. Today we are joined by Naseema McElroy. Oh my goodness, I just did it and it's going to mess it up anyways. McElroy, just like the golfer. We already said it, but welcome to the show. You're here. We've got a lot to talk about that we're excited about. Josh and I both have kids, and we've both talked about trying to set them up financially for their future, since I guess neither one of us was really no hate to our parents, but we weren't really set up well financially. So seeing that from what you're doing is awesome. So we can't wait to talk about that. Still working as a nurse, which is great up here in the Bay Area. So lot to get into today. Welcome to the show.
I'm honored to be here.
We usually start out every episode by talking about what got you into nursing and kind of your route to and through, and then we'll talk about business and investing.
Looks like a good one.
That is a good one. And, I used to have my podcast used to be named Nurses on Fire, and that's exactly how I started my podcast. So I love that. And it's very interesting how I got into nursing, because I actually have a master's in healthcare administration. So I was in administration first, hated it, but loved my friends who were all nurses who I worked with, and they seemed to have such great work-life balance. So after doing an administrative fellowship, from a large hospital organization, healthcare organization, I quit, and then I went back to nursing school. And really, secretly, I wanted to go into nursing because I wanted to be a travel nurse internationally, move to Dubai, and maybe be a prince's third wife. Because, I feel like the third, maybe even the fourth wife wouldn't have too many obligations, but you still get a driver, a cook, all of those kind of things. And so, that was really the plan, really. And then, I went to nursing school in San Francisco, and then ended up getting a job in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then travel nursing wasn't so appealing because no assignments were paying as much as my benefited position. So I've been here as a nurse for 15 years now.
Yeah. So I'm up in I guess I'm not in the Bay Area, but I'm in Northern California.
Napa County is the Bay Area, by the way.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, well, that's...
Now you don't have to correct everybody.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. So I'm in the Bay Area.
Yes.
And, but yeah, it's interesting because as we were getting ready to move up here from Los Angeles, I was looking at travel assignments, and it was the same thing. And I'm at probably one of the lower paying hospitals for the Northern area or Bay Area. And, but even with that, as I was looking at travel assignments, it was not going to pay more. I wasn't going to make more money as a traveler than I would as I'm doing per diem, but still. So yeah, it's an interesting, and it's a great problem to have, because then you can kind of come in and settle down. And if you like the area, it is interesting, because for a lot of people in the rest of the country, it makes sense to do travel nursing. But for us out here, it's kind of a 50-50 toss up, unless you just want to get out and see some new areas.
And I often have to correct people, because they're always like, wait, you make so much money because you're a travel nurse. I'm like, I make so much money because I'm a nurse in the Bay Area. There's a difference. And I'm a staff nurse, and my staff nursing salary is comparable or more than what most travel nurses make when you look at the numbers. And then when you include the benefits, come on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that was one of the things as a traveler, is like, we never had good benefits. And that led us, my wife and I were both doing travel nursing, and we ended up having to get kind of, sketchy insurance. And then we ended up with a health share, and then she had a surgery, and now we're going through this whole thing, just trying to get that paid back. And we're getting the runaround. So the benefits are just that. I mean, it's a huge benefit to have that, because it just simplifies a lot of your life. So yeah, to be able to make that kind of money with the benefits, it's pretty unique.
And then we talked about this before we started recording, but you are a nurse practitioner and never worked as one.
Just
Is that
for
what
fun.
you're saying? Just for fun? Because yeah.
Just for fun.
Because why not?
Who doesn't like school?
For context, I went to UCSF, and UCSF is a graduate school, and they have an accelerated nursing program. But in order to get your degree in nursing, because they can't reward undergraduate degrees, you have to finish a graduate program. So, in order for me to get my nursing degree, even though I had a bachelor's degree and I had a master's degree, I only got a nursing license. So, in order for me to complete my degree, I had to complete my MP program. And through my MP program, while I was working as a nurse, is when I realized I really hated what MPs did, and I really loved what I was doing as a labor and delivery nurse. Yeah.
Well, and again, back to the salary thing, what's interesting out here in California and kind of unique is that, yeah, like, Josh is in Wisconsin, he's a CRNA, and they make tremendously more than nurses make in Wisconsin. But here in California, I think almost every FNP I knew was still working shifts as an
Yeah.
RN just
Yeah.
because they needed to supplement their income.
Yeah, it was going to be like at least a $20 an hour pay cut if we looked hourly, to do something that I did not want to do. So
Yeah.
why would I do that?
That's crazy. Why would anybody do that, I guess?
It doesn't make sense. Like, even through my program, I was like, I'm gonna drop out, and the only reason why I didn't is because my aunt is a nurse, and she helped me get into the program, and she kind of still worked there, and she was like, "You better finish," and I was like, "Fine."
Yeah. Well, and okay, so even before you went back to nursing school, you were a hospital administrator. And I'm curious about that because I know salary trajectories in those positions are pretty steep. And I know you can make 500, a million, depending on which hospital you're in. So what about it did you hate so much to where the money didn't matter? Because
I felt like I was selling my soul. Like, most of the people that I went to school with and that I went through fellowship and all that stuff with are CEOs right now. And I just felt like I was giving up so much for something that I did not believe in. Like, I was depressed in those jobs. I remember, like, one of my last jobs as a fellow was eliminating the chart room, the physical chart room, when we were converting over to Epic. And it was heart-wrenching. Like, those people had been in those jobs for like 30 years, and they were introverted. They liked dropping off the charts. And then, like, the organization was committed to reassigning them, but it was in these positions that they had no training for, they had no desire to do, and it was just heartbreaking. And so I was just like, I can't keep on doing this over and over. My quality of life matters to me,
yeah,
and so I didn't like it. And that's not why I got into healthcare. I got into healthcare to affect access, to really help people. And I was in the business of healthcare, which is, pretty shady, if we're being honest.
yeah, it's pretty cutthroat. Definitely not helping people. You're helping a very
Exactly.
few amount of people instead of,
Yeah.
for the greater good or whatever.
I mean, there's obviously a need for a hospital. I mean, hospitals are businesses at the end of the day, and there's a need for them to function properly and make money and all that stuff. But it does seem like it's just not done it's not done with the employee's best interest in mind or the patient's, even, because you see stuff going on and you're like, wait a second, but this is not necessarily the best thing for patient
It's
safety and
heavily insurance
outcomes.
driven. Like, pretty much everything that we do is reimbursement driven.
Mhm.
Even as a nurse, we see, like right now we're facing department cuts, staffing reassignments, and it's all driven by what services are paying.
Yeah, we talked with Ayush Gupta. Yeah, and he said, I mean, his personal opinion is that because administrators used to be nurses and used to be physicians, but now they're not. They all they see is the numbers. They don't know what it's like to actually take care of somebody.
Even with the ones that were nurses or were doctors, I think it's that thing of having to sell your soul, because, like I said it before, but it's like you see these people, and I'd work with these people, and I was like, oh, they're going to go to administrative role, and they're going to be cool because they're cool here. And then it was like, if you didn't get into that kind of culture of whatever that is in administration, they cut you because you got to be on board, or you're out.
And they lose touch of what it's like to work with patients, and because they're very results driven, and like you said, you have to kind of jive with those people, or
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna get cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I have a good manager here, and she's one of the best ones I've had, and she's very like pro nurse, which is pretty unique. And but she obviously rubs some people the wrong way, and she's always having to explain herself to administrate like the higher ups and all
And
that
that's
stuff.
the
But
whole thing. The same thing with my manager and my director are amazing. But there was a recent change in my organization, and administration is on their necks. And it's just like we got bills to pay too. So, we're not trying to lose our job. So we kind of have to go with the program. And it's sad.
so when did you transition from being a nurse, working, or maybe it was before you became a nurse, but to this whole being financially intentional?
So let me see. When I started my platform, it was because I was going through just my journey of like just figuring out money. And I didn't want to do it in a silo. And I really was learning a lot of things that I felt like my friends could benefit from. So at that point, 2016, I had been a nurse for 6 years. And so I started my platform, just to share initially my debt payoff journey. It was just supposed to be for my good girlfriends, maybe a couple of coworkers, and then it kind of just blossomed into this whole platform, podcast, all these kind of things, like super unintentionally. But yeah, I was well into my nursing career and making really really good money as a nurse, just not knowing what to do with money. And like I tell people, like I had all the things from the outside, right? The six-figure career, the nice brand new house, the luxury car, like all of those things. So people thought I had money figured out, but I knew I was broke. So I didn't want to be broke anymore. I wanted to figure it out. So that's how I started financially intentional.
Well, I was just gonna say like that money and that lifestyle that you had was directly tied to you being able to show up and work 40, 50, however many hours a week. And if that ever changed, then that all goes away. And I think that's something that we've realized as well. It's like it's great, travel nursing, CRNA, all these things are great. You can make a bunch of money, but
I was just gonna comment about how standard that seems in the nursing community, because right out of school, like you're not making like millions, but you're making a very decent wage, and it's pretty easy to spend that on a house, a car, and some nice clothes, and but then it's gone. And then you're stuck to the bedside, and then you fall into the trap that I fell into, and is picking up all these extra shifts, and then 5 12s a week really gets old really
Whew.
fast.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even the 36 hours can wear on you depending on
Yeah.
what unit you're in and what you're doing. So
Hmm.
if that's your only plan for making money, it can feel suffocating pretty quickly.
So you have a podcast, you have your social platforms. What I guess where you said that started almost accidentally. What does it look like today? Everything that you're doing.
Today, it looks like what I have energy for. I am a single mom of 3 kids. My youngest is 1. So, and I have, I'm still working full time as a nurse. Actually, like I said, I have 1 full time job and a per diem job. So it's what I feel like doing, basically. So I post when I want to post. I do brand collaborations when I feel like it, and that's kind of how it works. Like people are always like, "How do you have so much time in a day?" I do what I can every day. If it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. I'm not going to apologize for it. This is my life. Like, yeah, everything has to get in where it fits in. And if it doesn't fit in, honey, I don't do it.
I mean, that's kind of the dream, right? Like that's you got.
It's the
But
dream, but it's also
I
because I'm exhausted.
I assume it took a lot of hard work and a lot of intentionality to get to where you are today, though, because we've learned that growing a platform is not easy, especially at the beginning stages.
Not at all. Not at all. Like overnight success. But I've had my platform since 2016. So there's
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
what type of brands have you collaborated with, and what does that look like?
All kind of brands nationwide, Go Henry, Acorns. Usually it's just posting funny stuff, like so they'll like the stuff that I do and just making content that's relatable. For example, Go Henry is a savings platform for kids that allows you to give them allowance and teach them to save and learn about money. It actually has AI generated like quizzes in there that they learn about money. So it's a really cool platform. So me and my daughter just talk about our experience with Go Henry. And, so that's what the campaigns like that look like. It can be anything. It be like for a nationwide or something like that. It could be me talking about being a partner with them, sharing my experience investing and what that's done for me, and giving people hope, and just bringing financial concepts like to a place that's relatable to the masses.
That's super cool. Is this something that your platform's just big enough to where they'll reach out to you, say, "Hey, we like what you're doing. We'll give you some money to do some videos."
Yeah, like it just got to a certain point where people were just emailing me. Like, and I couldn't even keep up, like, the amount of requests that I would get to do brand collaborations. And then a couple years ago, I started working with an agency, and they kind of filled those things and then bring opportunities to me as well. So, yeah. And it's just because of there was a point in time where I was really committed to growing my socials. And so I posted every single day, and that really helped. But I can't do it now. I mean, I could, but I'm not going
We're
to.
not in that phase of life. We're not doing that again.
No.
So what was your introduction to investing?
So early on, investing to me was buying houses. So I did that in my early 20s. By the time I was 25, I had 5 houses, and then the market crashed. And lost it all. So I was really, really scared of investing. And then when I was on my journey of paying off debt and like learning and reading every personal finance book and listening to all the podcasts, that's when I stumbled upon like the fire movement and started like really getting interested in like investing, like learning what investing really was and how it didn't have to be scary, how it could be simple. Okay, like J.L. Collins' book, The Simple Path to Wealth, is what really changed the game for me. And then so in 2017, at the age of 36, I know I look young, but I'm 43. I'm 43. At the age of 36, I really started investing heavily. And I just did a post today. I haven't posted it. I just made it. But went from like not knowing how to invest at 36 to now just in my investments for myself and my kids have over 700,000 on $750,000 in those accounts.
So I know one of the things people always say is it's not how much you invest, but how soon you start investing. So in your case, obviously 36 is a later start than most people would expect. So what did you do to, I guess, catch up?
Let me just say, I did have some investments just like anybody else. Like I was investing a little bit, but when I was on my debt payoff journey, I was totally like Dave Ramsey-ish and stopped all of my investing. So the most I had invested before then was maybe like 10% of my income. So like when I started, I probably had like 5 figures worth of investment, maybe let's say $50,000. And when I learned, I just started aggressively maxing out my 401k. I had a 401k at one job and a 403b and 457 at another job. So just maxing out all of those things, including maxing out my Roth IRA as well every year. And then at that time, I only had one daughter. Then I started her 529 and just contributing what I could at any given time. And anytime I got like a lump sum of money, I would do a savings calculator and see like how much I should put in there for it to grow to $100,000 when she was 18, because that's all I wanted to put in that account. So yeah, just really being focused and learning how to invest on my own. Like my favorite thing to do because I work nights is at 5 o'clock in the morning, call Vanguard or call Fidelity and just, check and make sure I'm invested in the lowest cost index fund in my retirement accounts, checking those fees, making sure that like when I left one organization, I didn't get administrative fees for not being an employee there. Like I like to do stuff like that. So really learning how to invest on my own, reading my statements and like actually understanding them because they didn't look like a foreign language anymore. Uh, yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, well, and I mean I think that's such a big thing is the whole reading and understanding them, because I'm always like, okay, I got to read through this stuff, and then I'm looking at it, and about a third of the way down the page, I'm just
Your eyes start to
saying words
cross,
in my
like
head, and but I don't
Never mind.
understand. Yeah, I'm just like, all right, I'm just gonna just hope and pray, I guess, because it's just like, so how did you familiarize yourself with that?
really just like being in the in the space of personal finance influencers. So like all the people that I used to like listen to on podcasts, like actually getting to know them in person, because I'm a part of a conference every year called FinCon, where they all are, and they became my friends. And like people would like be like legit, like, let's look at your statement together. This is what this means. This is what this means. Reading books, just like we're inundated with like consumer messages all day, so I wanted to reverse that by inundating myself with personal finance messages. So like just hearing things over and over and over again, and then finally, oh, now it clicks, now I understand it, now this is what this means on this perspective. Like, okay, just like that.
Yeah, and going back to your start in investing with the real estate. I mean, obviously, having five homes, were those homes all in California?
I had two in LA, um one in Atlanta, and two in North Carolina.
And you
Yeah.
lost all five of them, you said.
I lost four of them. So I had two bankrupts. I mean, two foreclosures, two short sales, and then I kept my initial investment in property, which was um my home at that time. Yeah, or it was. I had moved, but it was my primary residence at one point. Yeah.
So what do you think, like, what was your secret to, or what was your technique to getting through that and not just letting that completely crush you and put you out and
Oh, I mean, I
discourage you from
guess
ever investing again?
it was scary. It was scary. It definitely like kept me from investing for a long time. Like all of that happened in 2009, 2010. I filed bankruptcy in 2010, and it didn't take me. I mean, I didn't really start feeling confident about my money until I went on this journey in 2016. That started in 2015. Um so it took some time. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I wanted to share it with other people, because I wanted to give people hope. And like when I was going through all of that, I never heard anybody, especially anybody that looked like me, talk about any of this stuff. So,
Yeah, because it's funny. Well, not that this is funny, obviously, but I
I'm
just
funny.
timing wise, it's funny
Yeah.
because I was just having this thought the other day, like, okay, what's the worst case scenario if all our real estate failed? I file for bankruptcy. I'm still a nurse. So then, what does that process look like? You just start building your credit back up. How does that look?
Yeah, you legit, like, you just start building your credit back up. Within 3 years, I was able to buy another house. I've owned houses after that. So it starts with building your credit. You I wasn't investing at that time, but just keep on doing what you're doing. Like, I think a lot of people are so afraid of like the worst case scenario, like it'll just be the end. And I feel like, first of all, I have gone through all the worst case scenarios and still I'm here. That's another reason why I like to share my stories. Like, I've gone through divorce technically twice. You know, been a single parent, have lost houses, have filed for bankruptcy, have done all of those things. And guess what? I'm still here. And if I lose it all, now I have even more tools to build it back up. But so many people are so afraid to start because of fear of failure. But you're going to fail somewhere. Use that as a lesson and just keep on going.
Yeah, and is that something that's driven you? So one of the things I think I mentioned it briefly at the beginning, but you've been doing a lot to set your kids up and have them investing, and then with the savings account and all that. Do you feel like, was it something like growing up through your childhood that made you passionate about that, or kind of going through what you went through in your investing journey and bankruptcy and all of that?
I invest for my kids so they can opt out of all the BS that I had to go through. And I don't just put money aside for them. I teach them. They're part of my platform. I talk to them every day about money. But my kids are still relatively young. I have 10, 5, and 1. But we talk about money all of the time. And it's because I don't want them to fail. But if they fail, guess what? They got have so much more of a head start than me. And people comment all the time, well, they're just going to lose the money. Whatever, they'll get it back. Like, even if they do, if that's the worst case scenario, I just like, people are in this such a doom, gloom kind of like state. a lot of the times, especially you see it on the internet, if you have any kind of any kind of forward facing platform, you're going to get it. But yeah, I do it because I just want them to have options.
Yeah, and it seems like the way you're going about doing it by educating them and involving them, it's not as if you're just giving them the money where they're not going to know what. I think that's something for us that we didn't grow up with things just provided for us. We had to work for everything, and so now as we have our own kids, we're trying to find that balance of, okay, how do we raise them to be hard workers and to know the value of money and to not just expect things to be given to them.
I think that's a difficult balance to find because I mean, like I have 4 kids. Our oldest, she doesn't listen to this, so I can say this, but I already see it. Like we make a good income, and I already see a little bit of kind of expectations developing, and I'm trying to like without just taking everything away because I don't think that's the right thing to do either, but just to provide the right kind of education at the right stage of life. I guess how are you navigating that? And are there certain milestones that you're waiting for to be reached before you introduce new subject matter or new options?
So right now, my 10-year-old, and that's the one who I usually share publicly on my platform, is like there at the milestone where we talk about money, we talk about how much things cost, we talk about how to save to get those things. She works, and I say, you like nice things. So in order to afford nice things, you got to make a lot of money. And I'll show her like the salaries at McDonald's, like those things don't cut it. But maybe you can be a personal assistant to somebody. Maybe you can develop a software or something that will help somebody. Like just we talk through those kind of things. And that's kind of just like where the stage that we're at right now, because she's 10, right? Um, but I feel like those conversations will evolve as she gets older. But my 5-year-old is listening. Like she hears it too. So I'll have to do less explaining to her because she'll see her sister, she'll see the milestones that we've reached. So I think there's levels, and I I'm just right here. But the way that I learn is I talk to different people, and I personally use my podcast as my own educational platform, because I bring on people that have been trust fund kids. Like, how do you navigate that? How do you make sure that generations don't squander, the next generation doesn't squander that money, and then get tips from them and try to implement that in my education. So we can only do our best. Like, I'm not saying that I'm setting them up to be fail proof. I actually do want them to fail, because that's typically where you learn your lessons, but they just won't necessarily have to start from zero if they do.
It seems like such a harsh thing to say, but I 100% agree with you. I think we need our kids to fail as long as they have the right education to pick themselves back up
Yeah.
when that happens.
And what would we be without our failures?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea, but nowhere near where we are now.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you started looking into investing for your kids, you said she's working. She's 10 years old. She's working. So a lot of people would kind of wonder, what does that look like for a 10-year-old to be working? But I saw a whole list on one of your posts of all these different strategies you're using. So what was kind of the basic entry level that you started with when you were trying to start her investments?
Well, for her, she likes to, if she's on one of my podcast, I mean, one of my social media posts, that's working for her. And she's actually really good. Like, what it'll take me to do, like 10, it takes me like 10 takes to do. She'll do it, bam, one take, baby, no edits. She's like the Jay-Z, Like, so she works hard. Like, and I equate it to like a child actor, right? So it is similar to that. That's what she does right now. She's very musically inclined. Later, maybe she'll start a platform where she makes beats for people or does background singing for people or something like that. But like, take the things that she's really good at and she enjoys and teach her how to create a business from that.
And what did you, so like, how are you, I guess, structuring what you're paying her, and how do you know that you're working within what's legal?
I don't. So you can't. So let me just tell you the investment accounts that she has, right? There's a 529. I haven't even funded that in years. There's her brokerage account, and then there is her custodial brokerage account, and then her retirement account. The only thing that really has limitations is her retirement account, right? So you can't put in more than what she can traditionally make, right? So I'm like, I only like put in $1,500 a year, and we easily get paid more than that for a reel or something like that. So like I don't try to push the limits when it comes to that. The other thing, like for a custodial account, you can't put in more than, like, say what the gift tax is, right? Like and so that's, I don't know, what, $16,000 a year per parent, grandparent, whatever. So I don't exceed that. But it's not like I'm like I have an equation where I'm just like, this is how much I pay. It just depends on what money I have and like where I want to put it. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's. I guess it's really not that as structured as you would think. Yeah.
They're all in the accounts growing, and that's
Yeah.
what's important. Well,
Yeah.
so you said you haven't even contributed to the 529. Is that
Yeah.
the
Her
in
529
years?
scholar
Is
savings.
that the one that you made a post? You made a post recently, and it said
Mhm.
that her account was like at 100 grand already, or something like that.
It
Was that
all
the
of her
one?
accounts now, all of her accounts now are at 100 grand. Her $78,000 of that is her 529, and I probably put $30,000 into that account and haven't touched it since then.
And that's
That's
how
great.
she's getting a Tesla.
And don't hit on my baby getting a Tesla, okay? All y'all Honda people out there, okay? Because a Tesla Model 3 that she wants probably will cost the same as a Honda Civic. So people was trying to come for me about that Tesla, okay? If your mama has drove a Tesla, basically your whole life, all you know is Tesla. It's like, why wouldn't you want a Tesla? Like, stop playing with me. And she can afford it, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the way you're going about doing it, I mean, it's like you said,
Yeah.
it's not like you're just gifting her a Tesla when she turns 16. Like she's
Actually, I have a Model 3 that I'm gonna give her when she's 16,
oh,
and
Oh,
spoiler alert.
she already knows this already.
yeah, she knows it's
So
her
she's
car.
Yeah,
When you get in
okay.
the car, she's like, "This is my car. Don't fuck it up." Like, basically,
Okay.
she's like, stop playing. But she'll get it. Her thing is she'll pay to get it wrapped. Because
oh, okay.
she'll want
Okay.
it her little weird colors that she likes. And then that's it. And she'll have a car.
That's good. So she's buying your new Tesla Model 3.
Yes.
Yeah, there you
It's not
go.
going to be new in 6 years. And
Or
she's like,
Roadster. She'll
yeah,
get you the
I
Roadster.
right, a roaster. She's like, I'm worried that this car is gonna be outdated in 6 years. Like, what will happen? I'm like, girl, I'm like, girl, shut up. Like, because our other Tesla is like 7 years old. I'm like, it's just gonna be like this car. And she's like, oh yeah, they'll paint themselves.
That'll do.
Like,
That'll do, I
okay,
guess.
fine.
Now with what you're doing, it sounds like your investments are pretty passive.
I mean, yeah.
Other than the 5 a.m. Vanguard calls, which
But
I
those are
I
fun for me.
I was gonna say I
Yeah.
commend you for that because I do night shift and I always go into the night shift and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and then by like 2, 3 in the morning, I'm just like,
You're a
I'm just
zombie.
gonna
Your brain's
I'm gonna
not
get on
working.
Craigslist for a little bit.
But at 5 o'clock, though, at 5 o'clock, once you get over that 3 o'clock up, you're good. Like at 5 o'clock, something ticks. Like enough for you to be on the phone. Like I'm not doing much more than that. But yeah, they're passive in the sense that my contributions are for the most part automated, and I don't really think about it, and they grow like crazy.
Any interest in getting back into real estate ever?
I have my house. I am okay.
Sounds
So,
like no.
oh yes, but I'm still scared. Like I still have that fear. I was thinking about maybe syndications. I have a really good friend who buys hotels, and I'm like, maybe I'll buy a hotel with her. But yeah, there's still a lot of fear around it. I'd be like, sounds good, but
Yeah.
I know
Well,
there's a Instagram person that's from the Bay Area that buys hotels. It's not the lattes and leases lady, is it?
no, but I gotta
No?
follow
Oh, okay.
her. No, it's my friend Aquania Scarnay. She's at the Purpose of Money.
Okay.
That's her platform. Yeah.
so you don't, even with everything you went through before, like do you feel like if you did get back into real estate, you'd be better prepared for it or have some better like contingencies in place to protect you?
I mean, I definitely have like more backups, but I also have more options. Like, I'm just like, if I get into real estate, it's gonna be from like a self-directed IRA or an equivalent, something like that, where I'm not really gonna stress off of that money. It's gonna be like, oh, retirement, and I forgot about, and I'm just like, okay, I'll throw this into a deal, which
Yeah.
I didn't have the luxury of doing before. So yeah, I mean, I think about it, like, believe me, I have so many friends that are into real estate and short-term rentals and all this kind of stuff. Or I'll do a deal. Like I have a friend who's a nurse out here. He works with me at my hospital, but he lives in Sweetport, Louisiana, and he takes his nursing salary and goes down there and buys houses cash, flips them, and beautiful makes beautiful houses. So I'll do a deal with him where I'm just like, I know it's like I'll give him like $100,000 cash, and then I know he's going to turn that into something. So something like
Yeah.
Yeah.
that, something that's less
Yeah.
risky, and
Yeah.
with somebody that I know and I trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing with real estate. There's so many different ways you can invest in real estate. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's a more passive, maybe safer way to do it than, having to go out and buy the places yourself and run them and all that. So
Until then, I'll be an index fund girly because listen,
yeah.
those investments have not failed me. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds
It's
like
been
you're
a good. The last 12 months have been good for those
oh yeah.
funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's something like that you set yourself up, so just like the social media stuff, you kind of do it as you wish when you want, so it's like it's a good position to be in.
No, I do want to ask about that lawsuit because
Josh,
we're getting close to the end, and I want to make sure that I touch on this one a little bit. So you sued a hospital and won. So tell us
Winning
more.
is that, like when you settle,
Relative.
you can't really call it winning. We settled.
You got paid,
We
so
did.
that's a win.
I look at it, but I'll try to be diplomatic.
So
Um,
yeah, tell us more about that.
well, in 2018, I got fired from a hospital after filing a lot of complaints about the quality of or the lack of quality of care that they provided pregnant women, especially pregnant women of color. And these were things that I repeatedly tried to get addressed, and it led to ultimately being fired. So the lawsuit wasn't about the unfair care because that's so you can't really fire you can't really sue on that. It was wrongful termination. And so after a really it was really tumultuous. Like, that process is not for the weak. Okay. Yeah, so it took a couple of years, and we did reach an agreement um, that I did get a settlement on. That it contributed to what I was already doing. It did not put me on the path to financial independence. I was already there. I didn't even file the lawsuit until I had paid off like $1 million in debt. So it put me in a position where that paying off that debt put me in a position where I felt comfortable to do that and to advocate for my patients and all that kind of stuff. And so that's why I really preach financial freedom, especially for nurses, because I feel like oftentimes we don't feel like we're in a position to advocate because we're scared of losing our job.
A lot's happened in the last, let's call it 4 years, for us. And I mean, that's just it. A lot of people are doing stuff that they're uncomfortable with because they don't know where else the money's going to come from.
That definitely motivated us with everything we saw, through COVID and things people were being asked to do, and that was more nurse related, but that wasn't even just advocating for patients, because there's plenty of things that I've seen throughout the years, and it's just like you can kind of see things trending in a certain direction where it might not be great going forward.
So how much money did it cost to go through this lawsuit? Because I assume lawyers are not cheap. You said it was
Lawyers
over
are
a few
not cheap.
years.
It
And then
is.
how much did you get from them afterwards?
I can't disclose.
Oh, all right.
I can't.
Josh.
I can disclose it. Like, so I did find a lawyer that did work on contingency, and that contingency was a lot though. The contingency was like 60% of my settlement. So,
Oh wow.
like, at the end of the day, like, I didn't get a lot of money from it, but
Okay, blink twice if it was. No, I'm just kidding.
It was good. I mean, it was good enough to set some stuff up for my kids, and um, yeah, it was fine, but it definitely I had this one person comment like, "Oh, so your rags to riches story is not all of that. It's because you got the settlement." I'm like, "Relax your balls, lady. Like, first of all, we was never rags, okay? Okay. Second of
Yeah.
all, you know, just go back and go through my social media posts because I got receipts for everything." So
Yeah. With everything you're doing now, working night shift obviously can be tough, especially when you have kids. And then, even though you're kind of doing social media on your terms, that's still a time commitment. So where are you finding the balance in all that? How are you able to manage all that?
So, mostly I work Tuesday, like at my jobs, Tuesday through Saturday. So Sunday and Monday, are my off days. So Monday, Tuesday during the day is when I do my podcast interviews, have time to work on, um, my social media stuff. And other than that, like I said, everything else just gets in where it fits in. If I have time, you know, on those days in between my shifts that I'm resting, I'll do stuff. If I don't, I don't. So that's how I balance it. Like I'm just like, listen, I know I'm supposed to get this to you today, but it's not going to happen. I mean, and that's just how it goes.
I mean, that's great. I feel like I always need to come up with a decent and reasonable excuse if something's not going to happen.
Listen, I got
It
three
sounds
kids.
great.
Okay, listen, that's an excuse enough. At the end of the day, I have three kids. I have a
Yeah.
one that is 1 year old. Okay, I got two
Yeah.
dogs. If that ain't excuse enough, like if you want to work with me still after this is what you're gonna get, and I put that out there. Like,
Yeah. Well, and that's the kind of freedom that you get from actually having options.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I love that.
I'm not dependent on it. So if you want to work with me, sorry, boo. Like you gonna get it when I get it to you. And you know what? And let me tell you, I try my best to get to do only what I'm capable of doing in the amount of time and getting things out. But yeah, sometimes things just have to wait.
Well, I think we'll hop into the final five here, our last five questions. So yeah, this will be there's a couple things we touched on throughout the interview, and I'm wondering if they'll come up here. So it'll be good. Yeah.
All right. So first question is, what's a top financial resource that you found? Like, where do you go to educate yourself on finances?
Ooh, I love NerdWallet. NerdWallet
Okay.
is my jam. Investopedia too. But honestly, like I like binge personal finance podcasts. I binge personal finance books. And so just all of that knowledge together, like hearing things over and over again is how I learn.
Do you have a favorite book that you would recommend?
Oh my God, don't do that. Because okay, so I love, like, if you want to learn about the basics of investing, it's going to be A Simple Path to Wealth and Quit Like a Millionaire. But like, I feel like every Black person should read Cashing Out by Rich and Regular. But I have a whole book list, so I'm just like, yeah, these are some my favorites though. I'm not ever gonna say Rich Dad Poor Dad. Sorry.
we get we get that one a lot, so it's okay. You can skip that one.
Yeah. So the second question is, what advice would you give yourself as a new grad?
Ooh, as a new grad, live off of as little as you can and front load those investments because you want to make nursing optional. You want to make work optional, period. And that's what's going to do it for you. You used to being broke, honey. You can be broke a little bit longer. And you're not really broke ultimately. You're just not going to let that lifestyle creep catch you up. Make sure you pay yourself first, front load your investments, and then spend aggressively on everything else after. You can still have the things that you love, but just make sure you take care of those investments first.
Yeah, that's something I wish I'd kind of done. That is like front load the investments to where it's making more than my active income, so I can work whenever I want to, and that's it.
Would now looking back, would you change the way you went after your student loans?
Yes, definitely. But that's hindsight is 2020 because who would have known that we would have had this forgiveness? But you know what? In all honesty, there's still so much uncertainty around student loans. I know a lot of people that have gotten forgiveness, but I also know a lot of people who are still in limbo and are still like trying to figure out like what is legislation now, like what's going on. So yeah, I would have slowed down my student loan payment and really, really ramped up my retirement. That's one of um, my biggest regrets. And in those years that I was paying down my debt, I ran the numbers. It was about $80,000 that I lost in just money that I could have invested. So
Well, and even if the loan's not forgiven, just the like 0% interest rate, that's huge. Because you can pay nothing on it, and in 5 years, it's going to be like $100,000 of student loans today is going to feel like, I don't know, 650 or 60 in 5 years.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
just it was emotionally taxing for me. So it was worth it for them to be gone though.
All right, number 3 is what excites you about the next 12 months?
Oh, my daughter turned in 2. Like I don't know, like oh my god, like I like when you have a baby in your 40s, you're just like, oh my god, why did I start over again? Uh, so I don't know. I don't, but honestly, I love seeing my kids just grow up. Like that's what's exciting me right now. Like seeing all the developmental milestones that they're hitting, and just seeing all the things that they have access to, all the experiences that they get to, that we get to share that I wasn't afforded as a kid. So honestly, that's what's exciting for me.
So number 4 is, how do you define success?
Success is defined to me by freedom. It's about the options and the choices that you can make in life, because you have hit certain milestones.
Short and sweet. I like it.
There it is. All right, number 5 is, what is the biggest financial mistake that you've made, and what did you learn from it?
It was that not investing while paying off debt. And I just learned the value of compounding, the value of like like you can do more than one thing at once, like and just not all personal finance advice is applicable to everyone. Personal finance is personal, and so like when people reach out to me for advice, typically it's like it depends, right? So yeah, try not to be dogmatic about personal finance advice because it's not one size fits all thing.
That's so true. And when people reach out to me, I usually tell them, I usually don't offer advice. I'll tell you what I've done and why it worked for me. But I won't give you personal advice. And sometimes I do still. I try not
Like,
to.
but this is not advice, okay? But
Right. But this is what I do in your situation.
yeah.
Yeah.
With your, because you're doing some coaching a little bit here and there, you mentioned, if you are looking at somebody's finances, what's your first step when you're working with them?
So I don't look at individual financing. My coaching is more like these are things that have worked for me. It's just like done like a kind of just like you just review the information. I always forget what this called, but no, I don't look at people's individual budgets or anything. And if they do want that, I refer them to actually a financial professional that they can a flat fee only financial professional that can do that. Other than that, I say, okay, here's the budgeting tools that I use, here's the platforms that I use to invest, here's how I paid off my debt, what that looked like. But I'm not looking at nobody's personal stuff because I'm not a professional. I'm a nurse at the end of the day, and I ain't got time. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then that it puts it on them, and it's like, because like you mentioned earlier, it's like people just want to see dancing, but they don't actually want to take the action steps to
That's the
improve
thing,
things,
and
and they want
and that's
things
why
handed
I
to
got
them.
out of kind of like trying to help people one on one because I would really help like earlier when I first started, like, okay, let's sit down, let's work on your budget, and people wouldn't do nothing, and I'll take it personal, and I'll be wanting to fight them, and I can't be fighting everybody. I just stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, it's, and everybody's nowadays, it's like, oh, all these scams and these coaches and this and that. And we've paid for coaching. We paid a lot of money for coaching. And, at the end of the day, if you're not willing to put in the work,
It doesn't
it's not
matter.
going to change anything for
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Yeah. But on a personal level, especially somebody like in your position, sounds like you have a pretty busy life. You don't have time to be just handing out, your time freely if people aren't going to, treat it respectfully, I
Yes.
guess.
Speak on that, please. Yes. 100%.
Yeah. Yep. But hey, it looks like you're good at saying no. So
That's I'm sure it's a developed skill. I'm sure you weren't
It is very
as
developed.
good at
It
it.
is a very developed.
well, so where can people find you?
I hang out, mostly on Instagram. Check out the Financially Intentional podcast. We drop at least one episode a week. Slide in my DMs. Like, I'm very responsive. So
Cool. Well, thanks for coming and joining us today. Thanks for talking. Yeah, check out Financially Intentional on Instagram. Get some tips, get some motivation, get your kids set up for the future. And if you haven't already done it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel here. Thanks for joining us.